This video will cover example 2, where we will learn how to create a bar graph. So here, example 2, we have a list of food orders for 20 people visiting our restaurant, and we want to make a graph to show the popularity of items at the on the restaurant's menu. So part A, we want to again look at what is the most appropriate graph for this data. So if I look at my column, I can see I actually have 30 data values, but there's only 20 people that visited the restaurant. So that's an indicator that somebody ordered multiple things. So it could be they came in and ordered a burger and fries, or pizza and fries, or just multiple items at the same time. So that would be an indicator that a circle graph or a pie chart would not be the best choice, just because there may be those overlapping orders occurring. And then between bar graph and line graph, a line graph again is most commonly used when we're looking at change over time. So if I was looking at how did the orders change over a period of time, say weekly, monthly, yearly, or so on, that would be a more appropriate type. Here we don't have that happening. We're just looking at popularity or the quantity that was ordered for each item. So that's when a bar graph would be the best choice. So let me first answer that in this text box. So I replied a bar graph is the best for showing how the quantity of items compare between categories. In this example, a bar graph will allow the reader to compare the quantity of food items ordered at the restaurant. So now that we've selected our type of graph, we want to fill in our frequency. And here we can see that we have just frequency listed. We don't have the relative frequency like in the last example, because we're not worried about percentages in this case. We're just looking at the quantity of each item. So to calculate the frequency, again, our data is all mixed up. So the easiest way to count it would be to sort this. So similar to the previous example, we're going to select column A. We're going to go to the Data tab, and we're going to click on Sorting the Range by column A through Z. This will just allow the items to be sorted, so all my burgers will go together, fries will go together, and so on. So from here, I can now count up, using my row number, how many I have. So I can see my last value that has burger written is 10. So I'm going to have 10 burgers. Then fries, because it's listed alphabetically, was next. So I could see here there aren't that many. I could just count them by hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fries. Juice, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. So I could count pizza in a similar way and salad in a similar way. Here, if you want to become an advanced user of spreadsheets, there is a functionality for the spreadsheet program to count data values for you, given a certain criteria. So if you don't want to know how to do that, you can just count them out by hand like we did for the other values in the table. If you want to learn that advanced functionality, this is how you would do it. So for pizza, what I would type in is equals, and then I'm going to type in count if. So this count if option is essentially saying count the number of cells that fit a particular criteria. You're going to use the open parenthesis, and you can see here it's giving you some information of how to use that particular formula. So I'm going to state the range or what cells I'm using, and then the criteria, if it was numeric, right? I could be greater than or less than a number or in between particular values, or it could be equal to, in this case, text, like am I saying the word pizza in that cell. So whatever your criteria is, you're going to put it in quotations. And then here the formatting is very specific. If you leave off a comma or the quotations, any part of it, it's going to get thrown off. So here that comma in between the range and the criteria is very important. And then the quotation marks around the criteria are very important. So here I want all the values in column A. So I'm just going to click on column A. And then we know from our formula that then I have to type in a comma, and inside my quotes, I need to put my criteria. So I want my criteria to be pizza. I close the quote, and then very similar to a calculator, if you don't close parentheses, it usually gives back an error message. So here everything looks good. If I hit enter, I can see I get a number. If any of my formatting is not correct, it will go ahead and pop up an error message. So we can verify that I have, in fact, the same 6 pizza by counting by hand. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pizza. So again, you don't have to use that COUNTIF function. If you want to become an advanced user of spreadsheets, it's just one of the ways to very quickly count up the values in a long list of data without having to do it by hand. So here I'll practice the same COUNTIF function for salad just so we can see it a second time. So in the salad cell, I'm going to type equals COUNTIF, open parentheses. I'm going to select all of my values in column A. I'm going to do a comma and then the quotation mark for what I want my criteria to be. I want to see the word salad written, and then I close my parentheses. So here I can verify that I do indeed have those same 3 salad. So whichever method you pick, whether counting by hand or using the COUNTIF function, both will generate the same values in our table. So now for part C, we want to generate our bar graph. So I'm going to go ahead and select the items and frequency. So by clicking on one item, holding down my mouse, and then selecting the rest, we can select all the cells that we need. And then I'm going to go to Insert, Chart, and here we can again see that our spreadsheet program automatically selected a type that may or may not be the correct fit. In this case, we don't want a pie chart. It probably selected that because that was the previous graph that I had used. But here I want a column chart, or bar graph are the same thing. So if I click on that, I can see that that's the particular one I want. It's not placed nicely in my spreadsheet. It's on top of other things. So again, if I click on kind of the white space, not any part of the graph, but just kind of like the white background, by holding down your mouse, you can drag it to where you want it to be located. Other things we can do is edit our graph. So here it has axes labels that I may want to change, and it will have a title that we may need to change. So here I'm going to click on the title and go ahead and change my title to what I want it to be. So here I've changed the title of my menu or of my graph to be the popularity of menu items at a restaurant. I also don't like the way that the title is currently positioned on the left-hand side. So I can also change the alignment so that it's centered. For the frequency, I want to go ahead and change that. So again, if you see, you can click on it, and then it is a little bit awkward because it's positioned to the side. So if I double click on it, it'll select it for me. I can backspace and type in what I want. So here I want quantity ordered. Okay. And then here item would be fine. I want to be a little bit more specific. I want to change this to menu item. So again, any part of this graph that you would like to edit or change, the easiest way to access the menu is to just click on that thing that you want to edit. So for instance, my grid lines are counting by 2s, which is actually fine, but let's say maybe I wanted them to count by 1s instead. If you click on the actual thing that you want to change, it'll get highlighted, and then the secondary menu will pop up on the right-hand side. So here I can see my major grid line count. Right now it's on auto. And if I select a value, it's the number of lines appearing. So right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 grid lines. If I change it to 3, we can see that there's only 3. So say if I want to count by 1s, I can change these options until I have the quantity represented. So if I did 10 grid lines, that would count by 1s. Here I was actually pretty happy with, it was 6 total grid lines. That was fine. If I wanted to change my bars, if I click on the bar, you can change the color. You can also change whether you want to have data labels. So data labels are nice because then you don't have to guess at the quantity. For instance, here this bar was in between the 2, so it looks like it's a 5, but if we want it to be really explicit, we could include that. And you can also change the position. So right now it's on auto. I could either put it the center of the bars, or along the outside ends. There's a whole host of different options in terms of what you can edit. So again, if you just kind of select different options, you can change the font, text, and so on. And similarly, if I wanted to input this into another program, once my chart looks the way I want, I can copy the chart and then open up, say, a Word document. Maybe I'm doing, say, a science report, and I want to include data from my lab. I could create my graph in the spreadsheet program, and then I can insert, in this case, pasting the graph that we created into a Word document. So I could be doing a lab report and very easily generate a graph that way.